Today, we are going to cover what has been accomplished to date in the NGI project, and then we're going to turn our focus to what's upcoming and go through what the connectors can expect with member-facing peering migrations, OESS migrations. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris Robb.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, so on a personal note, I'm usually in the background in a lot of these things, and I'm seeing a lot of people's names that I haven't talked to in well over a year. So it's so fantastic to see you all here, even if it's virtually. So I'm going to talk about where we're at, just a real brief summary of what we've been doing over the last several months, just to recap, and I won't dwell too much there. But then I'm going to talk about the peering migrations that are really facing all of our connectors and how we're going to handle that over the next several weeks and what you can expect there. So yeah, so we actually have some initial successes in this area. We just in the past week. So Sunday night, Monday morning, Tuesday night, we moved some initial sessions from both CEN and UETN, who were wonderful about allowing us to make those transitions happen, verify that all of our scripting works, and Mike's going to talk about all that goes into that. But we are really grateful to them for kind of taking that leap of faith with us into the new platform, and we learned a lot along the way. So as Chris mentions here, or as the slide mentions here, we were able to make those transitions. Our graphs are updated. Everything is flowing as expected on the network. And I'll talk a little bit about what goes into that in a second. So yeah, Chris, if you want to go to the next slide. So let's talk about what this looks like. And I'm happy to take real brief questions along as we go, or I'll stick around towards the end. But we're looking at a series of maintenance windows, and I'll have the maintenance, the candidate maintenance calendar up here in a second. We're going to go router by router. We have to be, one of the things I think we have to, we emphasize here is that we have to, the number of sessions we have, about 800 across the footprint, 800 BGP sessions in this first, there's 2,000 total, but 800 in this kind of first set of migrations. We have to be very methodical about how we migrate those. We have to be very careful. We have to try and be flexible, but we also have to try and advance ourselves forward. So we're trying to do them as rapidly as possible, and I'll talk about how we're doing that in a second.
Hello.
But
good. How are you?
Hello, Chris O'Brien. I think we've got a leak from you there. Thank you. So the maintenance windows, what we're looking at is grouping them by router. We'll probably do multiple routers per window, and maybe at some of the larger cities, we might try to break some of those up a little bit. And I'll show you the breakdown here in a second. What we'll do is we'll send a notification out to the operational contacts that we have associated with that BGP session, and give you the list of all the sessions in the window. And we'll ask you to do a couple things. One is let us know immediately, as soon as you can, if there's anything about that session that looks problematic in that window. If that becomes an issue, just let us know. We will try and move you to another window and accommodate that. We're also going to give you the full maintenance calendar, the maintenance schedule, so that you can, we don't necessarily always know all the backup arrangements that the connectors have. So we don't want to make any assumptions about moving sessions that you're maybe unaware of, because you're not the operational contact for that. So we'll ask that you look at the other routers and the other customers that are going to be moved, or the other members that are going to be moved during that window, to see if there's any backup paths or anything there that you're concerned about. We will be trying to do a like-for-like transfer of the configuration from one network to the other. So we're not looking to make any significant changes to route policy or anything as part of that move. So we ask that if you have something that you like, if this triggers you to look at something and you realize, oh, I forgot to do this backup, this backup peering hasn't been working, or I haven't updated these routes, get that to us well in advance of the window if you can, or we'll postpone the work and we'll fix it after the window. But we won't be doing that at the same time. And I'll talk about why that's important in a minute. That's what you all can expect in terms of notification. The work that's going to happen prior to migration, what we're going to do on our side is we have a series of scripts that go through our existing Juniper configuration, and we scrape that, all that information, and we translate that into what we need on the NSO network. One of the things that's really exciting about this new network is that we're not working directly with the Cisco routers. We're pushing all of this into a programmatically accessible automation system. And Mike's going to jump into that. But what that means is that going forward, after we're migrated, the network will be 100% automated after we complete this. So we have to translate from the Juniper configuration into kind of an intermediate state and into Cisco NSO, which then translates that into on-device configuration. Still a lot of moving pieces going on as part of this. And what we're going to do is take some snapshots of the, we're going to do some verification of how that translation works, and we'll do a reschedule. And Chris, if you want to go to the next, yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit in a second about, actually, I should have done the sequencing. Could you go 2 slides forward, 3 slides forward, and I'll come back to this one. So during migration, what will end up happening is we're going to send you a bridge that you can join, and we really will encourage you to join so that you can verify. We're going to be moving a lot of sessions in some of these windows. We'll have 2, at least, Internet 2 engineers on the call, perhaps more. We're going to task one of them with doing the mechanics of the change and one of them with doing the verification. And when I say verification, we have another set of tools that we've written to do a snapshot of the sets of routes that you're sending us today on the Juniper network. And then after we migrate the session, so we'll disable your traffic on the Juniper network and shed it away to, if you have a backup connection in Net 2 or your commodity paths, but that should shed the traffic very gracefully and should not interrupt any traffic flows. Then we will bring up the new session on the Cisco router, and then we'll take that same snapshot again after the session establishes, and the tool intelligently compares what routes we were getting and accepting from you beforehand with what we're getting and accepting afterwards. So that's a good indicator for us how well that transition worked. And I will say that UETN migration, we had 100% match. So we have a pretty good level of confidence that our translation scripts are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. So Chris, if you wouldn't mind going back to the beginning of the migration schedule. So this is the schedule we have in mind. And some of them start next week. We are starting small. This is ordered by the number of sessions on those routers that need to be migrated. So if you look at the top line here on the 17th, the Charlotte router, as part of this set of migrations, there's only 4 BGP sessions on that router that need to be migrated. So during this whole window, we're going to be doing 3 routers, so for a total of 12 sessions. So we're starting off fairly lightweight. And as you can see, as you scroll down and look down that table there, the number of sessions per router starts to grow. And that's where some of that experience we get with some of those initial routers and those translation scripts will start to pay off as we can make adjustments to enable that scaling to happen gracefully. So Chris, if you want to go to the next slide, we're making the windows a little bit bigger to accommodate the larger number of sessions in the maintenance window. So this is what this looks like, and this will all be posted. We'll make this part of the notification you get. We'll publicly link this. It will be a live schedule that we will update as we go. And we'll also track how many sessions or which sessions have been moved. So you will be able to see the current state across the board and where your sessions might fit into that. So that's week 2. And then Chris, if you want to go to the last one, the following week. Now, we're trying to wrap the majority of these up by the end of this month. I I think it's unlikely that we will not have some stragglers. So what will probably happen is, in some of these sessions, especially in the ones where we have quite a few of them to move through, we will probably encounter some that don't translate correctly, and we aren't able to mitigate during the window. So we'll have to back off and we'll reschedule that at a later date. I'm really hoping the hit rate on that is extremely low, but we have a little bit of time after this schedule reserved to handle those sorts of things. So I see Brad is asking, no, Brad, this does not include any of the Cloud Connect. This is purely anything, let me just put it this way, anything that's controlled by OESS is not in scope for this. That'll be a secondary follow-up migration, and I'll talk about that in a second. So Chris, if you want to go to the OESS migrations, again, this one's a little bit less fleshed out because it's a little further out, but we're getting close. Very similar in terms of how we're planning to migrate that. There's a caveat to the OESS migrations in that today you have an ACL on an interface that provides work group permissions for how to modify that, who can modify that interface or build circuits to that interface. We will probably have a flag day where we'll move those ACLs from the old network to the new one. And at that point, we'll start that migration. When that happens, changes to the network can be made, but they'll have to be made manually by us. So there will probably be a period of, we're thinking a week to maybe 7 to 10 days where those migrations are happening, where making changes is possible. But you might have to contact us to help with that. And we're trying to figure out ways to mitigate that. So that's kind of why I'm being a little tentative on that. But it'll be very similar in terms of the migration. We don't have as much capability to shed traffic on some of the layer 2 circuits. So we would ask that you be on the, or either be on the bridge or just before the session, the maintenance window, shed the traffic on your BGP sessions so that happens gracefully. That'll be something up to you. But with these, we have a little bit less operational visibility into some of the circuits. We can look at traffic levels and make sure that they came back to where they were. But again, with backup arrangements, we can't always trust that those will work. So the best way for us to know that these transitions happened correctly for anything that's just purely layer 2 for us is going to be a positive act from you during those bridges. So we'll be really encouraging people to join and speak up when their sessions move.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it. If you think of a question, you may always send a note to me, and I'm happy to get it to the right person. So thank you again for coming today. We are recording this, so you'll be able to see this and show it to other colleagues who might not have been able to be here today. So thank you, everyone. See you soon.